Do you really know how much your investments have earned and exactly where those returns came from? In this video, I will show you how to use Capillary to easily answer those most fundamental investing questions, like how much did I make, or what is driving my returns, and how am I doing compared to benchmarks. Let's start with the most basic question: how much did I earn? For this, go to the Returns tab. Total returns is the number you are looking for. Here you can select different time periods to see how much you've earned. There are several preset periods to choose from, or you can create your own custom periods and pin them for quick access later. You can also see how your returns changed over time. Want to change how this looks? Just edit any chart. Switch from a line to a bar chart to see your returns for each individual year or month. Or use the stacked preset, which breaks down your returns to show the biggest positions contributing to your results each year. Now, these are absolute amounts, but often you want to know our rate of return so we can compare it to other investments. For this, open the rate of return metric. One important thing here is you can select what this actually means. By default, we use money-weighted return, which takes into account all your actions, your timing of when you bought or sold assets and for how much. You can choose to display returns over the entire period or annualize them. By annualizing, I can see that I've earned 10% per year over these 5 years. You can also switch to time-weighted return, which is better if you want to compare your investing strategy, your mix of assets, without the effect of when you added or removed money and for how much. For example, to compare to a benchmark like the S&P 500 shown here. Looking at this chart, we can see we were actually doing a bit better than the S&P 500 at first, but then something changed and we weren't keeping up anymore. For one, the standard S&P doesn't include dividends, but our returns do. For a fair comparison, you should either use S&P 500 total return as your benchmark or exclude dividends from your returns, like I'm doing right now. Also, right now we are looking at our whole portfolio. When comparing to S&P 500, we should probably only look at our aggressive investments, not everything. So let's use filters. And there we go. Now we are comparing just the aggressive part of the portfolio that makes sense for this benchmark, excluding investment income. You can always edit these filters by clicking here, and you can change your benchmark anytime here. A nice feature is that you can compare not just to standard benchmarks or assets, but also to your own filters or accounts. For example, I can compare my aggressive portfolio with my Dividend Kings strategy, using Dividend Kings filter as my benchmark to see how my overall aggressive approach stacks up to it. But what earned me the most? For this, let's use an X-ray chart in the Returns tab. Now we can see in one picture where our income is coming from, with the biggest rectangles showing what generated the most returns. If you want to see rates of return instead, open Rate of Return with a heatmap chart. The size of each rectangle shows how big each investment is, while the color shows whether it's up or down. Again, you can use filters to narrow this down, or group by categories to better understand which types of investments are giving you the biggest upside relative to what you put in. Besides different assets, currencies can make a big difference too. To see all the components of your returns, go to Total Returns and the Breakdown chart. This breaks down your returns to show how much comes from capital gains, currency movements, dividends and other investment income, or fees and taxes. Just look at the difference in currency returns when I switch from euros to another currency. It's a completely different picture. Finally, let's check the variation view, which shows on a single graph how much your rate of return changed each month over the past 5 years. The size of each circle tells you how much you have invested here. These small dots are the most volatile investments, that's crypto, but they are not the biggest part of my portfolio. The biggest investment is real estate, which doesn't fluctuate as much, making my overall portfolio more stable. You can open any group by clicking on it. Now I can see different equity types and how they behave. Large cap is my biggest equity segment and moves quite a lot, plus or minus 20%. Then there is mid cap, some emerging markets and others. If I change the grouping to positions, I can see the actual assets I own and their size. This gray blob is other, and you can always increase the number of groups shown at once up to 30. Even with my pretty big portfolio, this tells me a lot about how my returns are distributed, what the variation is, and which parts of my portfolio are least volatile. Thanks for watching.